Okay, I'm going to kick things off. It's 4:02. We've got a lot to discuss today, and I know we'll have lots of questions, so I'm going to leave as much time as possible to do that. But before that, welcome everybody to our WFA China Forum. My name is Ranji. I'm the APAC Director for the World Federation of Advertisers, and with me on the call, we've got Joel, who I'm sure everyone would have met as he let you into the room. So if there's anything you need from the both of us, do let us know. Quick introduction for everyone here who doesn't quite know us. We are the only global organization for advertisers worldwide. So no agencies, no platforms, no publishers in membership. We don't have agency members or platform members. And that lets us really keep a focus on what matters to advertisers today. We're not linked to any network or any holding group. So we're purely neutral, not for profit. And because of that, it allows our members like yourselves to set the agenda. So the reason why today we're focused on e-commerce, and you may say, Angie, but everybody's focused on e-commerce. Well, the reason why we're focused on it today is we've had a couple of members, well, more than a couple, reach out to us and say, look, we've got all these questions. We want to, get up to date with how to navigate the issues around e-commerce. And we figured, why not bring all those questions together and bring together the right people who can speak to you about that. And last but not least, we've got a really good group of members, lots of you on this call, different brands and industries represented. And this session, while specific to China, this is just one of the markets we cover across, well, a huge market for sure. But if you're on the call and you think, hey, Ranji, I'd like to know about how this relates to Latin America, we've got a strong group of members and national advertiser associations in those markets for you. Or if you wanted to connect with any of the brands you see here on the screen, let us know. Happy to connect you. What else can I tell you? We are obsessed with better marketing. That's our motto. This is the framework that drives everything we do, from reputation and responsibility. Our GARM initiative globally is a good example of that. Data, ethics and privacy, creativity and innovation. We've got a great piece of research that's about to be launched in the next couple of weeks, not to mention quite a progressive creativity and training program that we might be launching with a partner coming up soon. Organizations and talent and marketing capabilities, and of course that we all do this with the right principles and ethics in place. How we do this? Through leadership initiatives, through knowledge. This is one of those pieces we're putting together, and of course, connections. Speaking of which, these are the different groups and the different working groups, the different networks that we have across the organization. In today's group, we'll see quite a few of you from our media forum and our sourcing group, but I know we've got some CMOs on the call, insights leaders, and some of you who might be interested in these groups below also joining us today. So that's us, and this is what we're talking about. Just done with my 5-minute introduction, almost. Most of you will have seen today's agenda. We've got half an hour with our team from Ebiquity China. I say our team, no, Ebiquity are very much a trusted partner of us, so much so we think that, we work together, collaborate so much, it's a we. So with our partners from Ebiquity China, Stewart and Bob are going to give us an update on e-commerce practices and what they're seeing in all their encounters and engagement across the industry. And then we've got 25 minutes or so with firm decisions. So Dale and Jocelyn are joining us today to talk about e-commerce contracts. So how do you really make sure that all the things you want to do, you've locked that away and put the right measures in place. And then we're going to bring everybody back for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat or hang on to them. We'll bring them back at the end for a discussion. Some of you, as you're joining, you will have seen that the meeting is recorded. It's these presentations that will be recorded. So if you want to, you can share them with your teams or come back and watch them again a million times over. Why not? We will not, we will continue to record this session for our purposes, for notes. We will not share any of the discussions or attribute any comments to anyone. So that's our promise to you. Right, before I hand over to Stewart and Bob, some dates to save. This is live, this is happening now. Tomorrow, well, next week, we've got a great spotlight coming up on navigating global media demand and pricing that I know will look at the impact of inflation and how that's impacting the work we do. We've got a session with Google, more APAC focus around the role of apps for businesses next month. We've got a great live breakfast for media folks who happen to be based in Singapore. We're going slowly back to real life, and that's on the 28th with Karen Nelson Field. And then our final forum of the year for APAC will be on November 3rd. We've got a couple more sessions for China that will be confirmed, but do save the dates. And if you happen to be in Singapore on the 19th of next month, we are planning to have a e-commerce workshop. Right. And on that note, with all that crackling in the background, I think it's time. I'm going to hand over to Ebiquity. As I mentioned earlier, so Ebiquity have been a strategic partner of the World Federation of Advertisers for years, like even before I joined, and I've been here for almost 7 years. And we've really enjoyed working with them because of their neutrality in the business, again, not linked to any particular network, but really able to provide independent counsel, just like we do. And some of you may have seen that most recently they've made acquisitions, you know, that bring more capability to the field, and we love that because that allows them to have more perspective in terms of the work and the counsel they provide. So on that note, Stewart and Bob, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to the both of you.
Okay, thank you, NJ. Good afternoon to everyone. I think I'm Stewart Li from Ebiquity China. We are happy to see there are so many advertisers attend this webinar from Asia Pacific and China. Well, in the next 30 minutes, I shall present 5 key trends of e-commerce in China. Before Bob, our Senior Director of Analytics, who will talk about measurement and summarize. Well, probably you know that economic forecast make prediction a few years ago that China's retail market will exceed US in this year. However, due to the epidemic in 2020, so China's retail sales of consumer goods saw a 3.9% fall in 2020. So while although there have been a pickup in last year, well, it seems that China will take a few years to overtake US to be the largest retail market. So you can see it from the left chart. US is still the #1 consumer retail countries, and China ranked #2 with 6,300 something billion US. This is the latest forecast by eMarketer. Well, even as we are the 2nd largest retail market, but China is the largest e-commerce retail country. So on the right-hand side, you can see China topped the globe with 45% of total retail sales using internet or any device. So China has lead UK, so with 9 percentage points. UK is ranked #2 with almost 36. South Korea #3 with 30. So apparently the forecast say that China will lead the e-commerce development in the next decade. Okay, so well, being the largest e-commerce country, you can see the growth rate from this chart that has seen unbelievable expansion in the past decade. You mean like in 2020 is 20% growth. Last year was 14% growth, but before that it's always 50% or 100% growth. So the latest eMarketer forecast say the e-commerce growth rate in China will slow down to 9.1% this year, which probably will be the slowest rate of increase on record. This is partly because of the recent Omicron outbreak in key cities such as Shanghai, where Bob and I are based in, and I think quite a lot of advertisers from China that they are based in, as well as Beijing and Shenzhen, so have helped the economy badly. So probably you have heard that the Q1 GDP only achieved 4.8% growth, which is very bad in China's term. The World Bank also lowered the China GDP growth rate from 5.1 point to 4.3 point, which is a 0.8 percentage point lower. Again, the lowest record in the last 20-something years, except 2020. So while the you can see from this chart, while the consumers are tightening their belts, we find that China retail sales increase are expected to settle in the globally normal levels. So, but the forecast say the China e-commerce share will overtake brick and mortar sales in 2025, which will become 50.6% share in 2025. So this is very promising, because if this is half of the universe, that a lot of changes will happen. Okay, let's talk about the trends of leading e-commerce platforms. Probably you know Alibaba is the largest in China. After a few years of fast expansion, but under the changing China government internet direction and policy, Alibaba's forecast to have low single-digit growth in the next 2 years at only 3.9% growth rate in 2022. I mean, this year, 2022, 3.9, which is the lowest record of the year of Alibaba in history. And next year will be 4.9% growth, according to the latest forecast. So, well, if you have a Ali stock on hand, so you need to reconsider. Okay, so the second is Jingdong, and the third is Pinduoduo, which still growth by double digit at, you can see 14.3% in this year, and PDD, Pinduoduo, is 18% in this year. So while the top three, they are the top three in terms of e-commerce platform, holds a total share of 77%. Yeah, the other key players like on the rank, following the rank is Soling, VIP.com, and Gourmet, that hold a total of like 15% share. Okay, so the latest June 18 618 e-commerce festival has seen also a slow growth of 13.5% only. This is a reflection of the tough economy and the negative consumer psychology post Shanghai lockdown. Yeah, we have observed like Tmall, Jingdong, Douyin, TikTok in the West have delayed their 618 pre-launch campaign. The whole festival has been trimmed down with less marketing effort. So you can see, I mean, in 2020, the growth rate was 40-something%. In 2021, the growth rate was 26-something%. So this year, only 13.5. Well, because of very bad records, Ali has not announced its total transaction amount in this year's 618. This is very rare to Ali as a listed company. So according to Xintu data, it is forecast Ali sales, 618 sales, has suffered a 10% drop. Yeah, that's why it didn't report publicly. While Jingdong is estimated to have a 10% growth, and Pinduoduo is estimated to have a 50% growth. Yeah, probably Pinduoduo is because of a lower base and offer a very deep discount in the 618. Pinduoduo is quite aggressive to also listed in company in America. And sync to data without live streaming platform, such as TikTok, Twitter, and Kuaishou have excellent growth. Yeah. And well, during for this 618, we observed like O2O and D2C platforms such as Home and WeChat Video also fight for a good share during the 618. Another trend we can see in this year 618 is, well, metaverse have been heavily promoted to appeal to young customers, young consumers. Ali launched LOL, which is the first user chosen and foster metaverse idol after Aya. Aya was born last year, in May last year. And Noel and Aya, a good couple, yeah, are supposed to will communicate with the end generation, the young generation of new ways thinking of living style, which is in the AI age. So Ali also launched on the left, right hand side, you can see they also launched a MO magazine with Mobus as the theme, which is yeah, very scientific and fiction. And in February, it held the first metaverse fashion show to launch a virtual costume, which Aya and North are the models. So it has like a limited edition of 2,000 sets of virtual costume for AR wearing. So not wear in the real realities, wear on the AI. Yeah. So that's a very young target appealing. Those 10-something years old to 20 years old. Yeah, but well, and Jingdong and Tmall also appeal to the luxury shoppers. And while later say that there's 300 luxury and fashion brands has set up fashion stores in Tmall and Jingdong. Well, in order to provide the same shopping experience as offline, so the brands offer one-to-one online consultant services to VIP customers. So as a member, as an e-commerce members, besides as usual, you can have the bonus points, birthday special discount, preferential buy of new arrival, product trial, partial payments. For I mean the privileged VIP, they offer even offer the private concert. Yeah, so you have the virtual or private concert that to try, of course, using the AR technology as well. So you can see a lot of effort have been applied, used in the e-commerce shopping experience in China. Right. Well, and another trend we can see that, well, of course, last year we also mentioned that the KOL influencer in China also grow the e-commerce a lot, because the KOL will bring a lot of influence, and not to mention about live streaming e-commerce sales. Well, we have heard about like the Wei Ya, Li Jiaqi, Xue Li, that they help selling billions of RMB sales in a year. But however, that we find that the live streaming e-commerce fate have been cooled down, because the names that I just mentioned have disappeared all of a sudden. Well, some of them because of the tax issue, and some of them because of government rules. Yeah. So the miracle live streaming e-commerce sales growth has been declined. I mean, it's forecast to decline to 45% only this year, and will become very normal in the next few years at 15% growth rate. Yeah. And well, there are several new approaches in live streaming e-commerce. Yeah, such as new short video live streaming hosts. Well, we find that in Kuaishou. Kuaishou in Southeast Asia called Kuai, yeah, and Douyin, your TikTok, yeah. So their fans are only 1/10 of that kind of top celebrities I just mentioned. But we find that this is more reasonable, more rational, and will be healthier, yeah. And also for the real life celebrity, that they help sitting for customer interest, also improve visit stay duration, and also low ticket item sales a lot. Well, the second approach is the celebrity live, also boosts up fans conversion, because that kind of a junior celebrity help to drive new customers, enhance GMV. And recently, trend is that, well, boss or CEO will appear in live as well. Yeah, their presence is good for members, because for members, apparently that they are more loyal or close to the brand. So if the CEO come on stage to sell, yeah, it will boost up the membership transaction and increase, yeah, some figures. So it will increase 80%, and visit duration also increase, yeah, by 50%. Yeah. Okay, about short video. So like Douyin and Kuaishou, that apparently have overtaken long video that platforms that like quite well, like iQIYI, like Tencent, Youku, or Mango TV. So on the left-hand chart, you can see the MAU, monthly active users, in 10,000, and then course with the average user duration per day. So you can see that it's very sticky with the video platform that Kuaishou, Douyin, that they all have 100 minutes per day usage, with MAU of 500 million to 700 something million users on a monthly, active user on a monthly basis. Whereas they have exceeded the Tencent, iQIYI a lot, which the long video platform, which we watch movie and drama, that they are falling under the 500 million active monthly user, and only a duration of like between 50 to 80 minutes. Yeah, maybe some 1 or 2 drama episode per day. Yeah. And because of the popularity of short video, so you can see that the front page of Jingdong also revamped with a short video format. So we can see that also see brands have invested significant amount of short video for this time of 618, that during the warm-up stage, in order to get the top of e-commerce ranking. Because if you can rank earlier, so you will be allocate get more public traffic to drive to your site. So therefore, advertisers, we can see like for example, like quite the leading FMCG spend a lot of short video to drive traffic site. Yeah. At the same time, they also, of course, create collaborate with platform KOL to produce various e-commerce short videos. Okay, okay, let me pass the time to Bob, yeah, to talk about measurement and advice from Ebiquity's experience.
Okay, thank you, Stewart. So the next section, I'd like to share with you some quick observations from some EC buying related performance that we see from Ebiquity data pool, and how we usually measure them, as well as a little bit about advices. Okay. All right. First of all, just a quick big picture sharing on the overall EC spending trend. So based on the advertisers that we have visibility on the EC spending figures, we've seen a considerable increase in terms of EC spending share versus the total media expenditure. So if we compare between before the pandemic and after the pandemic, as you see, the share of EC total investment increases from 22% to 31%. So it's quite a bit increase. And then we go into a little deeper to look at the EC buying costs. As you know that, especially in China, that given almost all the EC related buying practice in China is on a billable basis, so be it on-site or off-site. So the actual delivered buying costs, no matter it's CPMs or CPCs, So even if based on exactly same buying platforms and same buying formats, they have much greater variances across different clients if we compare to other regular insertion order buys. So the example you see here is from what we have observed, that 6 advertisers happen to buy into one specific placement at the same platform and same format. But the actual delivered CPC gap is more than doubled. So this cost variance is actually very seldom, very rare to see in other buying models, such as regular insertion order buys. And well, if we add in sales ROI, which is most frequently used EC performance KPI to be compared alongside with the CPCs, we found that the variance of the ROI across different clients is just as significant as the CPC. And we haven't really seen any correlation between the two. So which means that you don't always see higher CPC can be compensated or rewarded by higher ROI, or low CPC or low ROI, et cetera, et cetera. So these are just some qualitative observations. So based on these, we try to understand and summarize the key drivers that contribute to the buying cost variances between regular IO buys and billable buys, especially EC billable buys. So actually, we try to put all those factors that could have an impact on the buying costs into a 4-quadrant matrix, where you see here, the vertical axis measures the impact on the buying costs of regular insertion order buys. And toward the upwards means high impact, and the downwards means low impact. And the horizontal axis measures the impact of buying costs of EC billable buys. So towards the right, that means higher impact on the EC billable buys, and towards the left, it means lower impact. So first of all, you can see that obviously some factors at the upper right area, like different media title or different placement formats, that would sure affect the buying costs of both IO buys and billable buys. While for most of the rest of the factors, they're completely different between the two. So if you first look at those factors in the upper left area, which usually impact the buying costs of regular insertion order buys, are those mainly like negotiation powers or agency group buying volumes, or whether there's a media buying pitches. So, however, these factors usually do not have much to do with the buying costs of EC billable buys. So it's just because EC buys are mostly on auction basis. So the buying costs of EC billable buys are therefore mainly driven by real-time supply and demand on the inventory of a specific audience targeting during a specific period of time, rather than based on any annual negotiated deals. So that's why you see that primarily those factors that could impact EC billable buys, which you see mainly at the lower right area, which are here, like the targeting and the seasonality, TA unit size, and also include optimization objective or product category, which usually dictate the TA targeting, and hence could also impact on the billable buying costs. So obviously, if you compare to regular insertion order buys, so these EC billable buys related factors are not as easy to compare or control by the buying agencies, and also often different from client to client, especially the wide variety of TA definition of different clients, such as someone have a behavioral targeting, some like retargeting or lookalike, or maybe mixed. So all these factors make the buying cost of EC billable buys are not as straightforward to be benchmarkable or comparable as the regular RO buys. So this is probably the fundamental reason why we see a much fluctuated gap on the cost variances of EC billable buys versus other regular insertion order buys. So one quick example of one of our clients from which we collected the monthly EC buying cost CPC data. Now, these are the actual CPC data in one specific placement forum. So apparently that seasonality does have a strong impact on this client's EC buying costs, which is reflected with a higher CPC during the 3 hottest EC festival periods in China. And similarly, we also add in ROI. So what's interesting is that if we compare ROI alongside the CPCs, it doesn't always achieve a higher ROI during the EC festival period, simply because there could be other more complicated factors that might have impact on the sales ROI performance, such as like campaign spending levels, product SKU, pricing, promotion, store service level, something like that. So all these observations actually lead to one key question, actually more and more often asked by a lot of advertisers. And actually sometimes some of our clients just ask us, hey, Ebiquity, can Ebiquity give me a benchmark of EC buying performance? Or like, maybe, I don't know if my agency EC buying delivers a good performance or bad performance, so can Ebiquity evaluate it or benchmark it? Well, actually, so before answering this question, actually what we think probably be more important for getting the best value of your e-commerce investments is to first review or audit a range of agency processes aside from the cost. So you need to ensure, so throughout the process, you need to ensure the right data and tech are used in the optimization process and ensure the right people are operating these data and tech to handle the optimization. And all these elements would better be transparently accessible. And of course, last but not least, also to look at if your cost or performance is within a reasonable benchmark, which you might be most interested in. So talking about EC buying benchmarks, actually, besides having the reference benchmarks from external brands, you can also have maybe a more meaningful benchmark via your internal process management. So what we suggest is firstly to build up your internal baselines so that to get the benchmark that is relevant to your brand, starting from which to strive for a continuous ongoing improvement for your future e-commerce investments. And alternatively, you may also choose to conduct EC buying pitch based on your required criteria and KPIs, thereby to get a relevant and more straightforward market benchmark. And in the pitch process, you could even choose to conduct a so-called horse racing live test to facilitate your judgment of the pitch. So no matter if it's EC internal tracking or EC buying pitch, it is crucial to ensure it is managed under the right process. We first talk about the EC internal tracking. So we believe that your historical actual performance of e-commerce buying deliveries is probably the most relevant benchmark to yourself, be it from the same agency or different agencies. So we think a set of comprehensive baseline data in all necessary granularities is very crucial as a solid starting point for future improvement. So we suggest you always try to track and break down your baseline data by all the criteria that might have an impact on your EC billable buying performance as detailed as possible, so that not only to have the most relevant baseline benchmark, but also to identify patterns, insights for optimization enhancement. So here listed are just some examples that we think are those most frequently involved EC campaign criteria parameters, ranging from the campaign setup to various optimization tactics and the KPI reporting outcome deliverables. So based on these baseline data and the breakdown into full granularity, it is then possible to further analyze by deep dive into different potential correlations and identify patterns and drive insights for you to for any possible enhancement via optimization. So here are just some quick examples of such kind of data analysis to identify the performance pattern under different campaign objectives and across maybe different creative message optimizations and across different targeting optimizations and maybe by different platforms. All right, as I said, conducting EC buying pitch can also be an effective or maybe more straightforward way to have the market benchmark, which is relevant to your brand and to your objectives, since the pitch setup can be exactly based on your required criteria and KPIs. So there are usually two ways to conduct the EC buying pitch. you may choose to get different agencies to offer or guarantee based on annual commitment, just like what we usually do in any other usual process of any other media buying pitches of a regular format, a regular bias. Or you may also choose to conduct a so-called horse racing live test with a small investment to facilitate your judgment of the pitch. The only thing you need to pay attention is that when organizing such kind of a horse racing live test, you need to ensure it is managed in the right process, especially a few suggestions on the live campaign setup to ensure that the competition to be as fair as possible and as comparable as possible, such as to give all contestant agencies same objective with same KPI and also same budget and during the same period, of course. And meanwhile, make some necessary attribution arrangements, such as if it's possible to make a separate product lines, if you have a separate different product lines under a brand, or if not, you can make it a separate landing page for the attribution arrangement. And anti-fraud is also very crucial to be covered in the live pitch to ensure a successful and fair horse racing, as it might be possible that maybe some small EC agencies might purposely make up the performance data in order to win the race. All right, we're almost there. So here comes the summary of some of the EC market trends in China that we shared today. So in a nutshell, overall China is expected to be the largest EC market, while the share of market leader Alibaba has been eroded by the challenger brands like Jingdong and Pinduoduo. And the total growth is fueled by social commerce, short video, live streaming, and now maybe metaverse, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, now we have the pretty much the last slide. So a little bit about advices based on today's sharing. First of all, as we said, looking at buying cost alone is not an effective way to measure our e-commerce value, as we've shared that so many different variables could impact the EC buying performance, not just costs. And number two, use a holistic approach to evaluate your e-commerce activity. Some keywords might need to take into account include like process and data and tech and right people, and then the cost versus performance. And number three, in conjunction with your agency to develop a governing principles framework with best practices. Number four, to develop a database of your activity by breaking down the value levers for deep dive analysis so that you can better understand how to improve. And when necessary, consider running a live e-commerce buying pitch to live test the EC capability of your agent and select the best-in-class agencies. And last but not least, to get independent advice would always be helpful, especially when it comes to how to manage a proper process or where to get a relevant benchmark. So independent advice would always share with you the best market practices in these areas. All right, it's pretty much everything that we shared today from Ebiquity China. And next, I will hand over to maybe our sister company from Decisions.
Thanks so much, Stewart and Bob. And yes, Dale and Jocelyn, we're going to hand over to you.
Thanks, Ranji. So I think just by way of introduction, I look after Firm Decisions Asia Pacific, and I'm joined today by Jocelyn Wang, who heads up our China office. And we're going to talk to you about e-commerce contracts, but I suppose also some of the things we've seen from the work we do, our audits, and some watchouts, I suppose for you to consider as you start to transact more with different e-commerce platforms, vendors, and buy more products. So I think also just to, I suppose, introduce ourselves for those of you that haven't worked with us or don't know us. So we're the largest contract compliance consultancy. We specialize in finance audits for clients of their agency partners. But the useful thing with that is it gives us a unparalleled level of insight into contracts, what the issues are, and I suppose insights for clients to fix them moving forward. We do a lot of audits. I think we've done about 7,000 in our time, which is quite a lot in China. And yeah. So I think just using that data, I think thought it was a good place to start, just to set the context. So when we look at agency contracts or supply contracts that we audit, having looked back over the last, say, 2 years audits, what we're still finding, I mean, there's just over 20% of client contracts with their agency partners or marketing partners, they either don't exist, so there isn't one, they're unsigned, or they're out of date, they've expired. So, you know, in terms of improving contract, I think the first place to start definitely would be just reviewing, you know, your e-commerce relationships, understanding where those funds are flowing and whether they're actually covered by an up-to-date contract. And then I suppose on all of you that do have contracts, or advertisers we've seen that do have contracts, they're still out of date, right? So a large portion, the majority of them, still have insufficient clauses, or really out of date. And I think a lot of that's driven by the fact that you know, clients tend to use standard service contracts as opposed to marketing contracts, and may not be aware of all the intricacies and issues that need to be covered, or at worst are using contracts that are given to them by the agencies or by the you know, the suppliers or vendors themselves, which are obviously not in your best interest. They're probably in their best interest. So that's I suppose the context. To help fill those gaps in contracts, we recently, and a lot of you probably would have seen it, along with WFA, developed some contract guidance for advertisers and clients to help, I suppose, cover off some of the key issues we're seeing in contracts, along with some guidance and best practice on how best to manage those issues, how to get them right in your contracts. So that was released earlier this year. Good news is, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there, and the reason I mention this is because specific to you know, e-commerce spending, in the audits we do, and from our inside, a lot of the issues are the same. I suppose it's other channels. So, you know, there's a lot of learnings and best practice that can be shared, I suppose, from this guidance applicable to e-commerce as well. So, you know, my recommendation is use that document. It's an excellent tool. I think it's the first time it's you know, it's been put together in that format. You know, traditionally, the industry bodies tend to push out contract templates, which is, you know, a list of clauses which are quite rigid and don't really give the full context to the issues, or give the flexibility to allow you to, you know, put your own terms on it, or at least your own influence on it. So good checklist. And I suppose the other good news is we've also been working on a version specific for China that has some additional areas of focus, again, driven from all our insights and knowledge on contracts that we see time and time again with client contracts, to help advise and close up those gaps. So those documents, I mean, the ones already available, but both will be available in Mandarin and English to be released later this month, or at least the China specific one will be released. But yeah, if you haven't seen them, definitely advise you start. I mean, it's a great place to start in terms of getting e-commerce contracts up to date and, I suppose, fit for purpose. And then if there's any questions around what's in there, we're always very happy to help with that. So looking at some of our more recent audit work around e-commerce, or at least those spendings, you know, a large majority still goes through agency partners, meaning, you know, and sometimes multiple agency partners. So, you know, you may be spending with your lead agency, who then use a a e-commerce or digital specialist to go then, activate those budgets. And naturally, the more links you have in that chain, the more risk there is in terms of transparency, value erosion, and I suppose non-compliance. So that's, I suppose, the current setup we see from our audits. And again, I think in terms of findings, what we see on the audits we're doing for e-commerce, it's not immune from the same issues as other media channels. So again, hidden fees or fees that haven't been agreed or uncontracted, we're coming across those costs that are being marked up, either because the contracts are silent or the agencies are saying, look, e-commerce, it's a new area, it's out of scope, it was never intended to be in the contract. I think that's part of the challenge. So, really nailing down those contracts so that you're very clear that e-commerce spends are covered, I think is a massive step into, ensuring a good level of compliance and obviously getting good value. Specific to China, there's probably 4 key areas we see, coming up time and time again, specific to China around e-commerce. I'm going to hand over to Jocelyn, who's our China MD, who's done many of these audits, and she will take you through and hopefully give you a bit more context on what you should be watching out for in China.
Okay, thanks, Dale. I think I'll share my screen for you.
Sorry about that. How do we go back? There we go.
Yep. So hello, everybody. I'm Jocelyn. I'm Managing Director for firm Decisions China. And today I will take you through the 4 watchouts for e-commerce in terms of how you can improve your contract protection and finance control. Well, the first one is about pre-charge accounts. Most of the e-commerce platform in China, they use pre-charge account models. But what are pre-charge accounts? Put it simply, it's like these platforms, they set up a bank account for you. So you need to put money into this bank account before you can spend to purchase anything. So in this scenario, that means you need to pre-charge before you have any campaigns run on these platforms. So once these campaigns are run on the platforms, the actual consumption of your spend will be reflected as debits against the pre-charge in your account. So you will see a variance between the pre-charge versus the consumption costs. The key for managing these pre-charge accounts is, in fact, to manage these variances. So we highlighted 2 issues here. The first thing is to track the variance. Of course, you need to know the underlying detailed data to support these variances. But the problem here is most of the platforms, they show these data on real-time basis. That means you can't go too far. As far as we know, most of clients can go back as far as 3 months or 6 months. You can't get all of them. And And here we really think you need to get your agency to be responsible to download this data regularly for you and retain them on file. So for your reference and for your internal check and tracking. Okay. And the second issue is about how to manage these variances in your account. Again, you need to get the help from your agency to manage the in and outs in this account on your behalf. And more importantly, your agency should report back to you to highlight the result of the reconciliation of the account, plus to highlight the important transaction credits in the account. In our experience, we have come across with the case where the agency paying almost no attention to clients' pre-charge accounts. Every time the agency will bill the client according to the e-commerce media budget. There's very small chance that your actual consumption cost of e-commerce campaign will be exactly the same as per your budget and pre-charge. That means after every time of e-commerce running, you will have a leftover and residual balance on your account. So accumulatively, it's been a couple of years. You can see there's a large residual balance sitting on your account being overlooked. So you can imagine that there's a huge time value of cash flow being lost by this client by constantly overfunding to the platform. An additional note to that is certain platforms, they do grant once-off and special benefits and a bonus into these e-commerce pre-charge accounts for promotion purpose. For example, like Tmall platform, they may grant you a once-off bonus for Double 11 event, but this special bonus can only valid for until the end of the year. Because the Double 11 event is in November, that means you only have 2 months to use up these special benefits. Without your agency reporting back to you and telling you there's such a credit in your account, it's very likely you may miss out this opportunity. So in summary, in order to maximize the value of the fund in your pre-charge accounts, you need to hold your agency obligated to regular monitor, track, and reconcile, as well as report back to you on timely basis, so you are aware of what's going on in your account. This regular means if you have a constant e-commerce investment schedule, that we recommend it to be monthly or at least quarterly. Okay, and let's go to the next topic: broker management. So what is a broker? It's just a middleman between your agency and the ultimate media. And why brokers? Maybe in some market you don't see a broker being used because your agency just deal directly with the media. But in China, why in China it's so commonly used? You see that in so many cases. Well, the most obvious reason is because China market is huge. There are so many media need to be managed. For example, there are more than 3,000 TV stations in China. It's almost a mission impossible for your agency to manage relationship with each single TV station. Instead, they will appoint a broker to manage a group of TV stations on their behalf. So they only need to worry about the relationship between them and the brokers. However, the flip side of the coin is these brokers are companies. Companies need to make money, they're not charities. So by recognizing that commercial fact, you will realize that by having more brokers, more layers of brokers in your supply chain, you tend to lose more value of your money. So while you can't eliminate brokers in China, we always strongly recommend our clients to put some control process in place. So the first one is whenever your agency need to select the brokers, they need to give you full set of justification. So for example, for e-commerce, the most common reason we heard from the agency is, oh, I choose this broker because I use this broker to pre-fund for our client. So in that case, we will suggest you to get your agency demonstrate to you how much saving by using that broker to pre-fund into your pre-charge account can give to you in comparison to the potential risk you may lose in terms of using broker, like transparency and other financial impact. And the other thing, of course, is to have a full approval process in place. And this approval process should include someone really senior in your organization. For example, your CFO or head of procurement, so they can oversee the whole process and consider the justification given by your agency. Of course, we also have some advice on how you can manage it on a transactional level to get a better visibility. For example, you can ask your require agency to disclose these transactions line by line and highlight those transactions when they use a broker, like put a asterisk against this transaction. Okay. And the third topic is about rebates. Most of the China clients, they really care about rebates because it does represent a huge financial interest. But when we go back to e-commerce, what we heard from the client is client saying, our agency told us maybe there's no rebate for e-commerce, or you don't have much you can earn on e-commerce spend. From our experience, rebate opportunity does exist on e-commerce spend. And plus, in a rapid changing market like China, we always say never say never, because even you don't get anything this year, doesn't mean you can't get anything next year. And they may have some new product next year coming with more benefits and rebates. So that's very important for you to have a full set of workable rebate clause in your contract to get yourself fully protected. Well, the first thing you need to get in your contract is to get a rebate entitlement in your contract. And this entitlement needs to be applicable to all the expenditures. It's not only about certain areas you think you're going to get a rebate. For example, online TV, it should include e-commerce, programmatic, all of that. And secondly, you should have a very clear and broader definition of rebates. For e-commerce, a lot of rebates doesn't only come into the form of cash, and they also come in the form of free space and virtual currency. So what are virtual currency rebates? They are the rebates being credited into your pre-charge accounts. So instead of like other cash rebate, you can take it out, you can't take out from that account. You have to use it up in the pre-charge account. And going back to our first topic about how you need to manage your pre-charge account, it's very important that you can consume these benefits while you can, because some of the virtual currency rebates cannot be carried over when you change over your agencies. Okay. And of course, you need to include all other points like disclosure, reporting obligation to you, and the qualifying condition for the rebates. But last but not least, you need to include a rebate refund clause. That should include a deadline and timing for rebate return, as well as to cover both cash and non-cash rebates. Okay, come to our fourth watchouts, taxes. But taxes is always a special topic and exciting topic for China because due to its complexity and the constant change of rates. So talking about complexity, in the past, when the agency billed to the client, they normally bill it in advertising invoice, and in return, they get the same advertising invoice from the vendor. So because it's the same form of invoice, the agency can deduct is exactly the same as what they paid to the tax office. So it's perfectly matched, no issue. However, due to the increase of landscape of the media spend going through agency nowadays, because as you can see, there's more elements to it, like social KOL, sponsorship, and content, and the e-commerce we're talking about today. A lot of suppliers, they are not traditional media suppliers. So, for example, in e-commerce, most of the suppliers are in fact technology suppliers. They can't issue the invoice in the form of advertising invoice. They only can issue technical fee invoice. But the tax agency can claim on these technical fees is less than the tax they can claim on advertising invoice. That means your agency will incur extra tax. So I think if your agency do a pre-discussion with you and list down it clearly, like all those tax difference and the gap on the media plan, and put a tax rate, associate rate clearly on the media plan, most of the client will think that's quite reasonable. I will accept the cost. But the reality is a lot of agencies will come across, they don't really separate out tax gap. They lump it together with the media cost on the media plan. They don't put a tax rates against it. So it's very hard for the client to do any internal check or even to consult their tax specialist. Okay. And the second protection we're talking about here is more about the constant change of tax rates in China. Well, as far as I know, there's one surtax rates had been reduced twice in the past 3 years. That affects advertising industry. And plus these changes of rate only comes retrospectively. That means when agency knows there's a reduction that's already half year passed by. So it's very hard for them to incorporate the new tax rate in the system. If they need to do the adjustment and refund back to the client for these reductions, they need to do manual work. So for the client, if they want to get this reduction and get their agency honestly to do this reconciliation for them and return this reduction for them, it's very important for you to specify in your contract that all the tax needs to be calculated at the prevailing tax rates imposed by the tax authority. Well, we got one more extra advice is to put extra pressure or give extra motivation for your agency to do this tax reconciliation for you. You may consider to have a penalty clause. If they don't do it, they will need to be careful about the consequence afterwards. Okay, that's all the 4 topics, 4 watch out we need to cover. Let's recap here again, like what you need to do. Of course, the first thing you need to do, you need to review your current contracts. And you can compare with today's watch out and also the media contract guidance that we just brought up to compare if you have everything covered in your contracts. And you also can discuss with your consulting partners to see whether you have all the contract clauses bring up to date. And lastly, but not least, of course, you should consider to do an audit to find out whether your agency had been complying with your contract. That's my last piece of advice, that it's always wise for you to include audit rights in your contract, because as a common knowledge that the agencies, they treat audit client and non-audit client very differently. They always give special treatment for those audit clients, like the tax adjustment, like the pre-charge account management. If you're audit client, you will be put on the top of the priority list. So even if your agency miss anything in their regular transaction due to errors, you always have the second chance to get a professional auditor to look to get things into the right place. So it's really a double protection for you. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. I love it, Jocelyn. You say that's all, but I'm like, that's a lot. And all really, really good points. And every time you say, you make a point, you say, okay, I think